Think about the year 1957. You just drove your brand new V8 coupe off the lot on Saturday morning. There is no speed limit in the US. Cops hardly ever have radar guns. You floor it, and in a matter of seconds, the car screams like a jet, holding you down. In the 1950s, going fast wasn't a crime. It was a statement for a whole generation. Back then, the fastest cars in the world didn't hide in secret garages. They proudly sat in suburban driveways with fire-breathing V8s, featherlight bodies, and engineers who were brave enough to take on physics itself. We'll look at the 12 fastest cars of the last 10 years in this video. Machines that changed the meaning of street legal and made people all over the world look at American roads in awe. And here's the twist. You may not have heard of some of these names before. Chevrolet Corvette Fuelie from 1957. This was more than just an early Corvette. It was a big deal. The 1957 Chevrolet Corvette FY was the first production car in the US to have mechanical fuel injection, which was a huge technological leap for its time. The famous 283 cubic inch V8 engine was hidden beneath its sleek fiberglass body. It had an optional ramjet fuel injection system that made it give 1 horsepower per cubic inch, 283 HP. A crazy number for 1957. Imagine this. A car that weighed less than 2,600 pounds could go from 0 to 60 mph in just 5.7 seconds. Most sedans back then couldn't get under 12 seconds, but the Corvette Fuelie was not only fast, it was also a sign of progress. It showed that the US didn't have to copy Europe. It could make its own supercar from scratch. Today, Fuelies that are still in their original condition are highly sought after by collectors, and their prices can reach 6 figures. 1955, the Chrysler C300. You didn't choose a Corvette or a Thunderbird if you wanted the fastest car in America in 1955. You chose the Chrysler C300, a huge 4,000-pound beast that could outrun almost anything on the road. The 331 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine in this 2-door coupe was powerful, but not just any Hemi. Chrysler used race engineering tricks to make a version with better performance. A hotter camshaft, more compression, and 2 4-barrel carburetors. The outcome, 300 horsepower. In the 1950s, not many people were brave enough to put that number on a sales brochure, so they called it C300. It made noise right away on the track. The Chrysler C300 was the best car at Daytona Speed Week and the first NASCAR events. It wasn't a quick sports car. It was a muscle car, dressed up for a formal event. Chrysler didn't just make a car that went fast. They started a story, the 1956 Jaguar X6, which is the basis for their famous Letter Aries performance line. The Jaguar XKSS was Britain's answer to the Corvette FY, a car that combined raw speed with style and racing scars. The XKSS was basically a street version of the Jaguar D-Type, which had won the Lemon Race. Jaguar stopped racing in 1956, so they turned 25 leftover D-Type chassis into street cars. This is how the XKSS came to be. It had a 3.44L inline-6 engine that made about 250 horsepower and was housed in a very light aluminum body. It could go from 0 to 60 mph in about 5.2 seconds, which was faster than almost any other American car at the time. But speed wasn't the only thing that made it interesting. A fire at Jaguar's Browns Lane factory in 1957 destroyed 9 of the 25 XKSS cars, leaving only 16. That tragedy made it an extremely rare collector's item right away. Actor Steve McQueen later called it the best car I've ever driven. The XKSS isn't just a car anymore. It's a mix of speed, style, and luck. And in this list, it stands out as the European jewel in a sea of American muscle. 1957, the Mercedes-Benz 300L Gullwing. The Mercedes-Benz 300SL Gullwing looked like it came from the future in terms of both design and technology. At the time, most American cars had heavy steel bodies and carburetors. The last Gullwing coupe came out in 1957, but it was still one of the fastest cars on Earth. It had a 3.0 Coel inline-six engine with direct fuel injection, which wasn't common until the 1980s. The 300 SL could go as fast as 161 km/h thanks to its 215 horsepower and light aluminum body, a number that would blow your mind in the 1950s. And then there were the doors to the Goldwing. Not only is it beautiful, but it also solves the problem of the car's high tubular frame. It felt like getting on a spaceship that was about to take off every time you stepped in. The 300 SL was more than just fast. It was a sign of accuracy, new ideas, and style. A car that showed the world what German engineering could really do. The Goldwing is one of the most valuable collector cars in the world today. And it's not just because it was fast. It held the hope of a future we all once dreamed of. 1954 Viv 8 for the Oldsmobile Super 88 Rocket. The Oldsmobile Super 88 Rocket had already figured out the secret to making a muscle car before the term became famous. Put a big, strong V8 engine in a mid-size body, you get a street warrior that doesn't cost a lot. Oldsmobile added a Rocket V8 320 cubic inch engine to the Super 88 in 1954. It had 185 horsepower, which was a lot for a sedan at the time. But it wasn't just about the power. The Super 88 had a body that was lighter than those of Cadillacs or Buicks. It also had a state-of-the-art 4-speed hydroatic transmission and gears that were best for speeding up. The result was that it could go from 0 to 60 mph in about 9 seconds. Too much for some two-door sport coupes of the time. The Rocket name is what really made the Super 88 famous. That name hit like thunder in a time when people in the US were obsessed with space, speed, and the atomic age. It wasn't only a car, it stood for moving forward. 1957 Ford Thunderbird E-Code. Ford didn't call the Thunderbird a sports car when they first made it in 1955. They called it a personal luxury car, a sleek two-seater for people who wanted to look good and have a little fun when they ran out of gas. But by 1957, the Thunderbird had changed. With the E-Code version, it turned into a real gentleman's hot rod. The E-Code had a 312 Ci V8 engine with two 4-barrel carburetors that could make up to 270 horsepower, which was about the same as many performance cars of the time. The Thunderbird E-Code could go from 0 to 60 mph in about 8.5 seconds. Even though it was heavy, this was because it had smart gearing and a lot of torque. Very fast for a luxury cruiser. And here's the twist. Ford didn't make a lot of them. There were more than 21,000 Thunderbirds made in 1957, but only about 1,400 of them were E-Code models. This makes them very rare among collectors. The Thunderbird E-Code showed that in the 1950s, luxury and performance could be combined in the same car. Cadillac Series 62 Coupe Devil from 1953. The Corvette and Thunderbird were made for young people who wanted to go fast. The Cadillac Series 62 Coupe DeVille, on the other hand, was made for men who wanted power but also wanted to look good. Cadillac put a 331 cubic inch overhead valve V8 engine in the Series 62 in 1953. It made about 210 horsepower. For a luxury coupe that weighs more than 4,200 pounds, that's an impressive number. It could go from 0 to 60 mph in about 10 seconds because it had a hydroatic transmission and a better chassis. The Coupe de Ville wasn't as fast as a lot of the so-called sports cars of the time. It said it with confidence. Every detail, from the leather seats and chrome accents to the electric windows, made it clear that this was a car for someone who knew what they wanted and didn't have to brag about it. The Cadillac Series 62 didn't set any speed records, but it did break the idea that luxury couldn't be powerful. And on this list, it shows a different kind of speed. Refined, dignified, and very American, Dodge D500 Super D from 1958. Chrysler's 300-letter series was getting a lot of attention, but Dodge, the less flashy sibling, quietly dropped a bombshell, the D500 Super. The Super D wasn't just a trim package, it was built on a full-size sedan platform. In 1958, it was one of the fastest cars. The engine was a 361 C8 with two 4-barrel carburetors that could make up to 320 horsepower. At the time, this was an amazing number for a 4-door family car. But it wasn't just raw power. The Super had better suspension, bigger brakes, and a performance rear axle, which turned it into a real sleeper sedan. It can go as fast as 130 mph or 209 km/h, which is fast enough to keep up with a lot of dedicated sports cars. The D500 Super didn't show off its power like a Cadillac or Chrysler would. Instead, it was the car of choice for people who wanted to go fast without drawing attention to themselves. It stands out on this list as a symbol of stealthy speed and raw, unfiltered American engineering. The Studebaker Golden Hawk from 1956. When people talk about the fastest cars of the 1950s, they don't often think of Studebaker, a small car company that doesn't have a lot of money or a race team. But the Golden Hawk from 1956 made everyone in the business stop and think. There was a surprise under its long hood, a 352 Ci V8 engine from Packard that makes 275 horsepower and weighs about 3,500 pounds. That made this stylish coupe a real performer. The Golden Hawk could go from 0 to 60 mph in just 7.8 seconds, which is faster than many bigger, more expensive competitors. But it wasn't just about the numbers. It gave you a fun driving experience. Steering that was tight, an exhaust that sounded throaty, and a style that made people look twice. The Golden Hawk never got as famous as the Corvette or Chrysler C300, but it showed that you didn't have to be a big company to make something fast. DeSoto Adventurer from 1957. DeSoto was often overshadowed by bigger names like Chrysler and Dodge in the 1950s. But in 1957, they came out with a car that caught people's attention. The DeSoto Adventurer is a fast car that looks great. The Adventurer was more than just a high-end trim, it was a real high-performance model that was made in small numbers every year. It had a 345 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine that made 345 horsepower. That's 1 horsepower for every cubic inch, a rare thing to do back then. The Adventurer could go as fast as 130 mph, 209 km/h, thanks to its strong frame and 3-speed automatic transmission. This was faster than many track cars of the time. It had a tuned suspension, bigger brakes, and gold accents all over it, making it both powerful and elegant. The DeSoto Adventurer was a daring mix of speed, luxury, and rarity. But when DeSoto died in the early 1960s, people quickly forgot about this amazing car. Tri-Power Pontiac Bonneville from 1959. Before the GTO became a legend, the Pontiac Bonneville Tri-Power was the brand's first secret weapon in the race for speed. And in 1959, it was at its strongest and most present. The Bonneville was a luxury coupe that was full-size. But don't be fooled by how it looks. It had a 389 in V8 engine and 32-barrel carburetors that could make up to 315 horsepower with the optional Tri-Power package. It could go from 0 to 60 mph in about 8 seconds. For a car that weighs more than 4,000 pounds, that's pretty good. Tri-Power wasn't just about the numbers. It was all about how well you could control the throttle and the mechanics. The 3-carb system turned on in stages, first using 1 to cruise, then all 3 for full power, making a sound and surge like a jet engine coming to life. The Pontiac Bonneville Tri-Power made a strong statement. Not just fast sports cars could go fast, it could also live in a full-sized coupe that was well made. For people who wanted to go fast without drawing attention to themselves. 1955, the Porsche 550 Spyder. The Porsche 550 Spyder stands out from the rest of the American V8 muscle cars on the list. The smallest car, but maybe the most dangerous of all. The 550 Spyder was born in 1953 and finished by 1955. It had a 1.5L flat 4 engine that made only 110 horsepower. which doesn't sound like much until you realize that the whole car only weighed 200 pounds. It could go from 0 to 60 mph in less than 7 seconds and reach a top speed of 140 mph, which is faster than many American cars with twice the horsepower. More importantly, it was made to win on the track. Lows that are perfectly balanced and easy to handle. James Dean drove and died in a 550 Spider, which will always be linked to him. That tragedy made the car a cultural icon that people still talk about today because it was both beautiful and dangerous. It wasn't for everyone, and it wasn't for the weak of heart. The 1950s were the beginning of everything we now know as car culture. They had everything from loud American V8s to light European wonders. These 12 machines were more than just fast. They stood for freedom, ambition, and new ideas. We saw big companies like Chrysler, Ford, and GM show off their power. But we also praised smaller companies like Studebaker and DeSoto for being brave enough to challenge the status quo in their own unique ways. Some of these cars are now famous all over the world. Some of them are no longer known, but they all deserve to be remembered as part of the great story of speed. It's your turn now. What car did you like the most? Was it the brave Porsche 550 Spider or the first Corvette Fuelie? Please leave a comment below to let us know. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more in-depth looks at forgotten speed machines and icons from the golden age. The next ride is coming up soon.